All right, man, peace. So as many brothers know who've been on my channel long enough, whenever I've spoken about Shaquille O'Neal, of course, it's always in regards to his dominance as an NBA player in the late 90s into the early 2000s. Of course, he came into the NBA in the early 90s, but I would not call him dominant at that point because he was so precocious. But as he grew in stature, no pun intended, his dominance became more and more apparent. But what also became more and more apparent was his jealousy. Shaq was always jealous of people. He was jealous of David Robinson. He was jealous of Hakeem Olajuwon. He was jealous of his own teammates like Penny Hardaway and Kobe Bryant. And eventually, he was able to dim that jealousy to a degree when he got to Miami. But it would always pop up and rear its ugly head, especially when he would speak about other big men near the time of his retirement and right after. That's why he would always go out of his way to try to talk down Dwight Howard, who also tried to take on the quote-unquote Superman moniker. For whatever reason, Shaquille O'Neal believes that that moniker belongs to him. Now, was that a part of his programming as a Monarch athlete? Who knows? Who knows? Either way, Shaq has decided that he's finally going to pass on that moniker to Mr. Giannis Antetokounmpo. Do I believe that Giannis fits that moniker of Superman? I mean, you could say that. The way that he plays, his mentality out there on the court. But is he the most dominant physical specimen in the NBA right now? It's hard to say because the NBA is no longer really a physical league. I mean, for all intents and purposes, you can go with a Joel Embiid, but right there with him would be Giannis, because even though Giannis is rather slim of frame, in this current NBA, he's almost like the Shaq of the current NBA because there's no real physicality anymore. So anyway, they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Guys, let's keep it moving here. Shaquille O'Neal was a guest on Stephen A's radio show Thursday, made some news because he's finally ready to hand off the reins of Superman over to another current NBA player. Please take a listen.
Greek Freak is the MVP right now. How about that? And you know what? I've never given my name up before, but I'm giving it to him.
I would not call Giannis the MVP as of right now. I think that there's a long way to go. And if I had to give the MVP to anyone right now for how he's played and how he's impacted his team over the course of the first 22 or 23 games, it would be Mr. Kawhi Leonard.
He's the new Superman.
You're giving the new Superman nickname to the Greek Freak?
Yes, I am.
Who can't hit a three-pointer yet? Shaq, can he at least hit a jump shot first?
You know what, though? Giannis is not a great jump shooter, but the great thing about him is that he knows what he can do and what he can't do, and he does not sit outside the three-point line trying to jack up threes to show people, oh, I've been practicing. I believe that he is going to very slowly implement that part of his game as he grows incrementally in that phase of his game. He's not going to try to force it. As of right now, he has other teammates who can make threes. So why sit outside the three-point line basically trying to compete with your teammates who do that better than you do when you could work in the paint out to maybe 15 feet and dominate like he's been doing?
I didn't hit no three-point either, but he's dominating, and that's what I like. You dominating in the paint, you take it to...
This dude is so strong. And once he gets that shoulder into you, he's going to knock you out the way.
To the hole, throwing it down, you ain't shooting no flip shots. He did something last night. I was like, you know what, this kid can play. So I denounced myself as Superman, and I'm giving it to the Greek Freak.
Antetokounmpo, he's going to attack the rim all the way from the tip off to the final horn.
Max Kellerman.
I love this so much.
Giannis? New Superman?
I love this so much, and Stephen A., great work out of you. You have to understand what this is about.
I mean, really, if you want to get literal, the new Superman in the NBA is LeBron James, but LeBron will be like the old new Superman because LeBron's nearing the end.
It's about Shaq is exactly right. Shaq was the one player in modern NBA history performing at an MVP caliber level and only scored in the paint, took it to the rack. That's how he got his points.
Well, the NBA game was so different back then.
See, free throw line, too, can't do anything about that. But that's where he's not taking jump shots and fadeaways, and like he had a little hook there, but it's all...
Because he couldn't. Shaq was not a jump shooter.
It's all in the paint. He's taking it strong. Patrick Ewing with a fadeaway, and Hakeem with a jump shot. And David Robinson had a variety of ways to score.
Well, Hakeem Olajuwon was a lot more than just a jump shot. Hakeem had the greatest diversity of offensive moves of any center in the history of the NBA, all the way to this day. Like, I had a cat come in the comments saying that Anthony Davis is a better version of Hakeem Olajuwon. I mean, no disrespect. And I love AD. Anthony Davis is a great player. But no, he's not anywhere near on the level of a Hakeem Olajuwon. Now, I'll say this. As an offensive player, Anthony Davis has more in his bag than Tim Duncan had. But Hakeem Olajuwon, absolutely not.
And even when you look at the little guys, the high flyers that we think of as ultra aggressive, Jordan and Kobe, they developed an outside game. And that's good. That's great. It makes them even better, right? KD can score smoothly from anywhere. Even LeBron shoots the three from certain spots very well in the deep three. Obviously, Steph. Show me an MVP caliber player since Shaq who only gets it in the paint. He only takes it to the rack. That's where the Greek freak scores, and that's why Shaq is saying him. He's taking it strong every time. That guy could be Superman. I love it.
Well, Shaq is going to say that about Giannis because, once again, his game reminds him of himself. That does not mean that Giannis is literally the Superman of today's NBA. He's a Superman in regards to how Shaq sees Superman, that archetype and that playing style. So, I mean, it is what it is.
It makes total sense that Shaq would make that claim.
Agreed.
And you're right about that because Antetokounmpo is averaging 27 and 13 right now on 57%.
Those are definitely Shaq-like numbers.
7% shooting, 11% from three-point range. 11, okay?
Right, but what does that really mean if he's not taking that many threes?
And from the free throw shooting, he's not quite as bad as Shaq was, but he's at 50, as he has 68%. Here is the only thing, and I don't have a problem with Shaq's, proclamation or whatever, because it makes total sense. He's right. Here's the only thing that I would say to y'all. Shaq was unstoppable. He was a physical freak of nature. He was 350 pounds. He was the most dominant force of our lifetime outside of Wilt Chamberlain. This is what we've seen. The Greek freak is something special, but because of his slim.
Yeah, the Greek freak is like a hybrid. He really is. He reminds me of a slightly souped-up version of Kevin Garnett, believe it or not. And Kevin Garnett, at various points in his career, bordered on being dominant, especially in his MVP season.
Slim, muscular, but slim frame, even though he gets to the rack, dribbling the ball, creating his own path to the basket. The dominance that Shaq is speaking to is not something that has worked for the Greek freak, nor do I think will work come playoff time. Now, he averaged 29.
Well, in the playoffs, he's going to have to show his range of skills. Everybody knows in the playoffs, you got to step your game up. It's not going to be as easy to score in the paint. But he was great in the playoffs last year, borderline great. I mean, he was a little bit up and down. He's going to have to show some growth this season in the playoffs. That's for sure. At the very least, he's going to have to get out of the first round, which he has yet to do. But he's been good in the playoffs in the past. He was very good last year.
25, 9, and 6 against Boston in their 7-game series last year. But when it really, really counted, you could find a way to neutralize him because he couldn't shoot. Whereas with Shaq, there was no way to neutralize him.
Well, Stephen A., one of the main reasons why they were able to, quote-unquote, neutralize Giannis, as you say, is not even so much that he couldn't shoot. It was because many of his teammates were not shooting properly. And maybe it was because of their lack of proficiency as jump shooters. Maybe it was because of the system that they were running. So we'll see how Budenholzer is able to alleviate some of their potential problems. That's where he's earning his money. But I do believe that you should stick to what you're good at until you become better at other things.
Because he was so massive.
You may be right. The Greek freak had a three-point shot. He'd be the best player in the game, including LeBron.
Yes.
I mean,
I agree with that.
He could really shoot it. But that's the point. You just said Shaq was a physical freak. Freak is in Antetokounmpo's name. The Greek freak. In other words, of all the freaks that we've seen.
But that's not the case come playoff time.
Joel Embiid, the freakishly great players.
Stop mentioning Kristaps Porzingis. Like, this dude keeps talking about some damn Porzingis. After Porzingis looked dead in the camera through 20 games and said, "I'm tired," I was done with him. I said, "You're right. You are tired, man."
Players, even if you don't think of them physically that way, Tim Duncan or even KG or someone like that, you think of LeBron. LeBron is a physical freak, all those things. But no one's whole offense or scoring offense is predicated in the paint since Shaq.
But don't convolute the issue. You can't teach 350. That's all I'm saying. You can't teach 350 come postseason time. That's all I'm saying. I'm not disagreeing with any other points.
But okay,
I'm saying
Right, but Steve, the game is so different today. I mean, you really can make the point that Antetokounmpo is the Shaq of today. You really can. I mean, it's a bit of a stretch. But with the lack of physicality today, the way that he can maneuver in the paint and his aggressiveness, of course, he does not bring that physical dominance in regards to his stature, his build, the width of his shoulders or what have you. But because the paint is so open and the game is so spread out, if he can get a one-on-one situation and all he has to do is a Euro step, he's at the bucket and he can finish with either hand. Hard.
That's a lot of beef, bro.
Fair enough.
That's
But
a lot of beef.
Pause.
You know how people say the game has changed, it's not about the big man in the paint anymore? That's true.
In the postseason, it will be.
But it's still about the paint. You still must get to the painted area. If it's off the dribble, or the post, whatever it is, you still got to do that to collect.
You have to at least have the threat of being able to get into the paint. And that's what has made the Golden State Warriors so unbeatable with KD. Is now that they've added KD, they have a weapon that can either pull up from 30, as Stephen A. Smith would say, pull up from mid-range, or could dribble drive to the basket, and then KD's a 90% free throw shooter. That's what has made Golden State unbeatable.
Collapse the offense at times. It can't just all be three-pointers. That helps your three-point game. What I'm saying is this. What if the Greek Freak, who has a different way of getting to the paint than Shaq, obviously, what if the Greek Freak thrives in the playoffs? Are you ready then to call him Superman?
Well, then call me when it happens.
I agree. In order to really call Giannis Superman for real, he's going to have to win not just one round. He's going to have to win 2 rounds.
Okay. Good.
What's wrong with that? What's
And
wrong
what
with
was
saying that?
driving
He
me?
already averaged 25, 9, and 6 in the playoffs. That's not shabby. I'm simply saying that when it came time, it didn't matter what time of the game is. Last second, first second, 350 pounds is a problem. Now with the Greek Freak, let's see as the game wanes, because of his inability to hit perimeter shots, if he'll be able to get to the basket.
Who was
with
the
that level of
closer?
ease
Who was
in
the
the
closer?
postseason.
Well, really what Giannis has to improve upon is his low post game, so that he can dominate with his back to the basket.
Who was the closer on the Shaq team,
Let's see.
Stephen A? Who
Let's
was the
see.
closer?
Excuse
We know who that was. It was Kobe Bean.
me.
Who was the closer on those great Shaq teams in LA?
Well, I'd say Kobe, but it's still like it's
For
not like
sure.
Shaq didn't get him there either.
I like Chris Middleton a whole lot, but he ain't Kobe Bryant. You can't. If the Greek Freak goes off and gets bumped in the second round, you can't hold that
All right.
against him.
All right, whatever. Let's move on because we got boxing to get to.
But anyway, we'll see how things turn out for Giannis this season. Hopefully for him, at the very least, he can get out of the first round. I don't want him to get to the third round because I want Boston to face off against Toronto in the third round. But we'll see what happens. Peace.